to make a learning tool to help us learn our perfect squares. This is going to be a foldable, and we're going to fold it a certain way. So the first thing I want you to notice is how I have my paper positioned. I'm going to do what's called a hamburger fold, which means I'm going to take the short side to the short side, and I'm going to put a crease. So short side to short side, and then I'm going to put a crease right there. So you can see where it folded, I put a nice crease, and I'm going to run my finger down a few times because I really want that crease to be visible. So now if I open it up, it's like a book. I have a crease in the center. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the short side to the center, to that center crease. For me, it's easier if I turn my paper sideways. So I turn my paper sideways, and I'm bringing that short edge, the side, to the center crease. And again, I'm going to do another fold. So now I have like an opening door on that side, and I'm going to do the same on this side. I want to bring this side over to the center, line it up, make a nice crease like that. Again, I'm going to run my finger along it a few times. So now you can see it opens up in the center. Okay, so I'm going to do another hamburger fold. I'm going to take this short edge. Notice I still have it folded. So I'm going to take this short edge to this short edge. I'm going to do a hamburger fold, and the purpose here is I need to make some creases because those creases are going to help me organize my information and help me to cut and show me where to cut. So now notice along where the fold is, I put another crease. So I'm going to take this bottom fold that I just made up to the top, and I'm going to put another nice crease down here. And I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, so when I'm all done, I should have 14 sections, and I'll show you what I mean. So now I'm going to open it, and open it, and open it one more time. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, sorry, 8 sections, and on each side. So notice I still have it folded to the center. I'm going to keep it folded to the center. I want to cut little sections here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my paper so that the fold is to the top, and I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along the crease to the fold. I'm going to do that for every single one, just to the fold. So what I'm having here are little flaps that open up. Okay. Along the crease to the fold. Okay, I'm done with that side. So now I have these little individual tabs that open up. I want to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm just turning my paper around to make it easier for me to cut along the crease. So I'm only cutting right up to the fold, not beyond it. There we go. So now I have all my little folds. All my little tabs are there. Again, I'm going to put it so that my tabs open up to the side. And I'm going to label my tabs. So with my tabs closed, on the very top of both columns here, I'm going to write square me. Make this a little closer so you can see it better. Here I'm going to write square me. Okay, so everything on the outside here are the numbers that we will square. Now I want you to open up just the top two tabs. Just the top two. And inside, I want you to write perfect square. So right in this column, we're going to write perfect square. Perfect square. Okay? And then on these outside tabs, we're going to write take the square root. Take and put square root on the same line. Square root. And maybe even underline that, because square root needs to be together. Square is different from square root. Okay? On this other outer flap, we're going to write take the square root. Take the square root. Okay, so that's how it should look like on the inside. So you can close that up. And let's just take a minute to talk about squaring. So what does it mean to square something? Okay, so if I have a number, let's pick a number such as 4. To square it means that I'm going to take that number and I'm going to multiply it by itself. Okay, so that's the same as writing that as 4 squared. So what does that mean? That means if I have, let's just say something like, oh, we'll do it like this. Here's a ruler. So I have a ruler, and this ruler's a little awkward because it's straightforward. Let's do this one. I have this ruler, okay, and I know that from here to here is 1 inch. So that's 1 inch. Okay? But I want 4 inches. So that would be 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. Okay? But I'm multiplying, I'm not adding. So I'm not going to add another 4 and add another 4. So we think about this, well, what do we call that? We call that a square, right? So since that's a square, that must mean we are going to draw a square. So in order for me to draw a square, I have to take my ruler and go this direction. So this direction I would have, well, there's 1 inch. There's 2 inches. There's 3 inches. And there's 4 inches. Okay? So I'm going to draw a square. Hopefully I end up drawing a nice square. Let's see how this works out. Okay, so that's a square. It's a little off, but this is 4 inch by 4 inch square. So what happens here? If I were to do 4 squares 4 times, I end up filling in an area. So the question is, how many squares do I have altogether? Well, if you were to count them out, you're going to see you have 16. So that's why 4 squared is 16, and that's why we call this exponent a square. Okay? So if you were to figure out all your squares, which you can do, you get something like this. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, and so on. Okay, so you have your nice list. You're going to need to do all the way up to 14. Okay, so I just created this sheet making it up to 14. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our numbers 1 through 14 and we're going to scatter them on the outside of our tabs. So it's just, I'm just going to arbitrarily put them wherever I want. So I'm going to put 1 there, I'm going to put 2 here, I'll put 3 here. Doesn't matter where you put them, just don't put them in consecutive order. 4 helps to count when you're doing it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there I have just numbers. They're just numbers from 1 through 14. Okay? So on the outside, this is saying square me. So if I square 4, that's the same as 4 times 4, which is 16. If I were to square 10, that's the same as 10 times 10, which is 100. If I were to square 1, that would be 1 times 1, which is 1. 13 squared, 169. 8 squared, 64. 11 squared, 121. 6 squared is 36. 2 squared is 4. 5 squared, 25. 14 squared is 196. 7 squared is 49. 3 squared is 9. 9 squared is 81. And 12 squared is 144. Okay, so we're almost done. The only thing that we have left to do, because these ones we squared, and then here, if we were to open up our flaps, we see everything on the inside here. Those are all perfect squares. 16, 100, 1, 169, 121, 36, 4, 25. Those are all perfect squares. So here it says take the square root. So all we're going to do here is I'm going to write the square root of 16. Because when I do the square root of 16, I'm going to get 4. Do the square root of 100, the square root of 1. So just keep, just whatever that number is, right next to it, you're just going to write the square root of. Notice I have square and root together when I'm talking about square root. Okay? And in here I'm going to write the square root of 4, square root of 25, the square root of 196, the square root of 49, the square root of 9, the square root of 81, and the square root of 144. Okay, so because we're going to glue this into our notebook, which is kind of debating if there's another way that we can do it, but what's kind of neat about this is that if we don't glue it in and you make it as a study tool, if you turn it the other way and fold it backwards like this, you can see now, let's see if I can get this to work. I'm going to fold all these guys back the other way. So I don't know that I want to put this, glue this in my notebook. I might put it in some other way. Okay, so if I do it like this, and I take the square root of 4, I get 2. Take the square root of 25, I get 5. Okay? You could still do it if it were glued in. And so here, you could write, if you wanted to, the root of, so let's just go do that. The square root of, so on the back side now, notice I'm on the back side, there are no numbers here. You could write that's the square root. We'll put of the number is. Okay, so whatever that number is, so in this case it's 2. So here, the square root of the number, the square root of square root of 4 is 2. The square root of the square root of 25 is 5. So you can just, again, copy these down to help you and here again we're going to write the square root. I'm not sure if I want to write of the number is, so well, maybe we'll write of the number is. So the square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 169 is 13. The square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 121 is 11. And the square root of 36 is 6. So you can see how we can use this tool both ways. We can use it to try to figure out what the square root is, and we can use it to figure out what the perfect square is.